Thanks, Margaret. And one thing that hasn't been exact at all is the Saints defense so far this season. They became the first defense in NFL history to give up over 400 yards in their first 7 games. Coach, I know that you prided yourself on defense. Is this an issue with defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo? Because a lot of people are pointing fingers at him. What's the problem right now?
I think they need better players. I mean, they got some pretty good players, don't get me wrong. If you're an NFL team, you got pretty good players, but I think they need better stats like that, those numbers. Whew, they're scary.
Coach, to put you on the spot, what position, if you had to point at one position in general, do the Saints need the most help?
Oh, no, that's a tough question. I don't know. I kind of like guys up front in the front 7 that can get after the quarterback or blitz and get after the quarterback or come up with a key interception or cause a fumble, things like that.
All right.
I would hope they'd have somebody better there.
I talked about Curtis Lofton before, number 50, the guy that came up with the fumble recovery last week. He also was in the top 5 in NFL in tackles last season and has good stats so far this year. How much do you like him playing that position in a game like this?
Well, if he's the most athletic linebacker that you've got, then that's the guy you want, doing that, spying on Michael Vick, because Michael Vick is such a tremendous athlete. You need somebody that can mirror him, and if Michael starts running around, this guy can stay with him and eventually make the tackle or create a situation where it's not a big gain for Michael.
And Coach Joe Vitt told us earlier this week back.
More rushing yards tonight. Michael Vick and LaShawn McCoy or Pierre Thomas and Mark Ingram, coach?
Well, first of all, the Saints haven't ran the ball well all year. They're not a running team this year, not like they have been in the past, and I don't see them doing much more tonight. So I'm going to say that with Vick running around, picking up some yards, and McCoy, the running back, I'm going to say the Eagles will have more running yards.
I'm going to go the Eagles as well, simply because LaShawn McCoy averages 72 yards per game. The Saints as a team average 72 rushing yards per game. So I think that the combination of McCoy and Vick will win that one.
All right, let's talk about the receiving game. Who'll have more receiving yards? Deshaun Jackson or Jimmy Graham? Chris Miles, kick it off.
I'm going to go Deshaun Jackson simply because he's a deep threat receiver and they've had success against the Saints this year, but I think Jimmy Graham will have more receptions, but I think Jackson will end up with more yards.
I agree with Chris on that one. Like I say, I think Jimmy Graham's going to have a lot of receptions or more receptions than Deshaun Jackson, but because of the deep threat ability, he's going to make more yards than Graham.
And Jimmy Graham was somewhat of a non-factor in Denver last week coming off that ankle injury. Coach, which defense will have more sacks tonight, the Saints defense or the Eagles defense?
I'm going to say the Eagles defense for this reason. Just take a look at those Eagles defensive ends. They get down in a stance. They look like they're in the Olympics getting ready to run the 100-meter race. These guys, all they care about is getting to that quarterback. So I think the Eagles defense will have more sacks.
I agree. The Eagles have 20 sacks so far this year, and that's supposed to be a disappointment. Why? Because last year they led the NFL with sacks with 50. So I think that the Eagles will have more sacks in this game, unfortunately.
All right, now to the offense. Which offense, the Saints or the Eagles, will have more turnovers tonight or will turn the ball over more times tonight?
Well, here we go with something finally positive for the Saints. I think the Saints will force more turnovers, and I think the Eagles will have more turnovers as an offense.
I agree with Chris again. I don't agree with him that often, but I do. I do so far with the 2-minute drill. But the Eagles have turned. They lead the league in turnovers, for crying out loud. Yeah, so they're going to do it. They're going to turn some over tonight, and they're going to have more than the Saints.
All right, Coach Chris, thank you very much. Stay with us, everybody. More coverage after the break.